My love for you is immeasurable. My respect for you immense. You're ageless, timeless, lace and fineness, your beauty and elegance.
Good morning, everybody. This is Michele Hughes from Ageless and Timeless. I'd like to welcome our guest today, who is Dr. Naina Sachdev from Los Angeles. And she's a very, very well-known and very esteemed medical doctor specializing in anti-aging, hormone replacement therapy, and lots of other things that we'll talk about today. So Dr. Naina, welcome so much. We fondly call her Dr. Naina, by the way.
Yes.
Dr. Naina, welcome. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, it's good to see you again, Michele.
Thank you.
Nice to be on the show.
Dr. Naina knows me very well now. I spent a little bit of time with her when I was in Los Angeles, and I probably should give you just a little background on why. Everybody that's watched my podcast for the last year knows that I had a serious biking accident, and I have wanted to find solutions to the swelling and to the discoloration that occurred. It seems like the fractures healed beautifully, but there's still this residue. And I also had heard about Dr. Naina more from her beauty, aesthetics, and anti-aging practice, but the combination of the two encouraged me when I was living the last 6 weeks. I was in Los Angeles in August, and so we met, and that led to a very intense number of sessions with Dr. Naina. So I can firsthand tell everybody that if you're in Los Angeles and you want to do anything to do with anti-aging or your hormone imbalances, which a lot of us women after we turn 50, we're facing that dilemma. Even men who are looking for answers for many of their health issues very often find out that it's your hormones that are imbalanced. And most allopathic medical doctors never even ask you about your hormones, nor do they test you. And Dr. Naina had me do a battery of tests that I've never had before, so thorough. So, and even if you're not in Beverly Hills or Los Angeles, you can talk to Dr. Naina by Zoom, and she'll do an initial consultation with you. And then from there, you can decide how you want to proceed. So with that being said, Dr. Naina, I'd love to hear some of your story. So why don't you start us by telling us why are you here where you are today? How did you get to this place of being a renowned anti-aging doctor?
You know, the story is it is a story. It is, and as whenever we go out of the box, we always experience challenges, and my life has been full of challenges. But I started actually when I was 20 years old in a field called nutrigenomic medicine. I was interested in free radicals. I was kind of like a nerd. I was a mathematics major. I was pursuing a master's in mathematics. My father was a very famous statistician. And so I was planned to enter his career, but I got interested in just intuitively just wanting to take care of myself at a very young age, at 20. And this led me to start attending conferences on nutrigenomic medicine. And what nutrigenomic medicine at that time was, you couldn't change your genes, but the way you express your genes can be changed through certain nutrients that you study like drugs. Nutrients can be like drugs because certain nutrients act on the enzymatic level, and they can actually change the way you express your genes. Well, very early on, little did I know that this was giving birth to a field called epigenetics, nutrigenomics. And when I attended, there was a few biochemists and a person like me. I was like a few people, and now that field has exploded. Nutrigenomics is very well respected specialty. Epigenetics is, of course, exploded, and so that was always with me. And when I decided to go to medical school, I actually was pursuing a plastic surgery residency. My mentor was phenomenal at University of Chicago. I'll never forget the man. His name was Dr. Thomas Krizik. and he was getting the hyperbaric chamber for the burn unit, and everyone thought, oh my God, what is this person doing? And he wanted me to do the research to see if it was beneficial for the burn victims. And although my research that year led to negative studies, meaning that it was not beneficial, we later on came to know that the hyperbaric chamber was very phenomenal for chronic wounds and so forth. But during that journey, I saw how burn victims were, their nutrition status and so forth. I started seeing things, people that were, entering dementia, and nothing was really being done for them except medications, obviously pharma and the medicine, and the disease was diagnosed. And I couldn't help but keeping getting out of the box, and I was always questioning why, and what is the root cause? What is a biochemical imbalance? I loved biochemistry, and that led me in 2000, I believe, or a little earlier, to Dr. Jeffrey Bland. I don't know how it all happened. He was an amazing biochemist, has written the book. I urge everyone to read it. It's called Genetic Nutritioneering, and doing the same thing what I was studying at 20 years, that you can't change your genes, but the way you express your genes can be changed through, nutrigenomics or certain nutrients.
Can you say his name and again?
Dr. Jeffrey Bland, B-L-A-N.
Oh, Jeffrey Bland. Oh my gosh, he's so famous for.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, so he was your mentor?
He was he became my mentor.
Oh.
I was literally at every meeting that I showed up. He says, I don't want you asking any questions. Give the other people a chance, because he knew what I was going to ask him. But I followed him, and then I got trained under him. He started the Institute of Functional Medicine in Gig Harbor, Washington. I had the most amazing experience of spending from 7, and he didn't stop until 10 p.m. at night. We were still studying. And so I trained under him, and we started. I helped start the institute. I helped donate to the Institute of Functional Medicine in Gig Harbor. Everyone can go to instituteoffunctionalmedicine.org. And the functional medicine gave birth. We had our first textbook, and we were able to become an entity. And what functional medicine believes is looking at root causes. I don't care if you have dementia or Alzheimer's or whatever. What I'm concerned, how did you get there? What was your biochemical imbalances? So the brain, for example, ages in 5 different ways. So you would study that. And by correcting certain imbalances, guess what? A lot of the symptomatology disappeared. People who, let's say, did have the dementia, they became much better functioning. So much of this, if you had autoimmune, suddenly your autoimmune titers were suddenly, way back down, or even testing negative. How is this possible? How is it possible? And it was possible because you start looking at your root cause and the biochemical imbalances.
So if you had to summarize,
that,
oh, sorry,
I'm going to summarize that. And the biochemical imbalances are neurotransmitter imbalances, hormone imbalances, immune dysfunction issues, gastrointestinal imbalances. We know the gut-brain connection. The environmental toxin exposure they don't even have a disease name for that. And also the mind-body connection. So these are just and mitochondrial dysfunction, which is huge. And so we looked at these imbalances. That led me on to anti-aging, getting board certified in that at a very time when it was, just that field was emerging. And I used functional medicine. We very quickly realized we needed to have the knowledge of functional medicine. So we utilized that along with, anti-aging, regenerative medicine, and we started combining all of it and combined it with aesthetics. And that's what gave birth to to what I do. Yeah.
So when you look at, when you say the word functional medicine, how do you compare functional medicine to allopathic medicine, which is what most people in the United States are used to, who have not discovered the alternative approaches?
Yeah, I think the difference is in allopathic medicine, and believe me, I'm an allopathic physician. I understand the need for that. But I think what we so far forget, we get to the point of where we study the physiology, the biochemistry of the disease, each disease, but then immediately it goes into treatment with a drug.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So you bypass tying in all the things like, oh, this disease could have it, this could have it. And if you have mitochondrial dysfunction, maybe of the brain, then 2/3 of the heart muscle is mitochondrial dysfunction. So maybe we're going to have heart issues. So in other words, it allowed allopathic medicine became so, how do I say, tunnel focused, that you only have the disease, and then you study a little bit of the physiology, biochemistry, but then you quickly go into the treatment, which is usually a pharma drug, and the side effects of the pharma drug, interactions of that drug, and how you follow the protocols. And as we now know, allopathic medicine has become, which is very much to my surprise, peer-based review articles. Well, peer-based is not science. It's what your buddies think. It's what your colleagues think. And we obviously, yes, all the colleagues are very highly educated, so we respect them. But peer review is based, and that's, peer-reviewed articles to me is not science. I think what science is looking at the biochemistry, doing certain statistical studies, and even the correct statistical models need to be used. And that is, to me, more scientific than the peer review. And I think that's where, for me, allopathic medicine became more pharma-based and, just side effects of drugs. And that's what I now have to be very sharp. If I'm going to be a good allopathic physician, I have to be good in that. And I tend to forget then, hey, what is really the biochemical imbalances going on? Let's just fix that. What are the nutrients that act at the enzymatic levels of certain biochemical reactions that could perhaps, be beneficial? So we forget all of that. Yeah.
But so then define functional and integrative, which, all these words that people use today to describe what you're doing that's different than allopathic, but maybe people don't understand what those words mean and what that means in terms of the treatment that they'll get from you.
Functional is looking at the biochemical imbalances, all the systems I just mentioned, mitochondrial dysfunction, gastric imbalance. I usually figure out which system to approach first. Then integrative medicine is, hey, let's say I've already got this person on the drugs. How do I integrate my knowledge that I've just learned from them and the functional medicine aspect? And how do I integrate that to, let's say they're already on these medicines? I don't just say, hey, get off all your medicines. That's dangerous. But how do I integrate that? So for example, I'll just give you an example. Okay, I know a person is, let's say, on a cholesterol drug, right? How many people are on cholesterol drugs? Like millions and billions, right? Did anybody ever bother saying, this is how I would do it as an integrative doctor? I would say, hey, guess what? You're on a statin drug. It lowers your levels of coenzyme Q10. Coenzyme Q10 is very much involved in your mitochondrial functioning, the ability to produce oxygen. So no wonder articles are talking about if you're too much on a statin drug, it increase your risk of cancer, because we know cancer is associated with mitochondrial dysfunction. Also, all the myopathies, a lot of people have these muscle aches and pains that happen with statin drugs. Well, could it be because of mitochondrial dysfunction? So I start recommending coenzyme Q10, which I know is a very, very good antioxidant, ubiquitous antioxidant to help with mitochondrial function. And lo and behold, what happens? Their muscle aches are gone. But if I'm critiqued further, what we do is we actually have studied further and we say, wait, why did Merck, the drug company, actually have a patent in 1990 for adding coenzyme Q10 to their formulation? Let's look it up. They own it. They have the patent for it. So our knowledge then goes, okay, here's a person on a statin drug. I'm going to definitely add some coenzyme Q10. And I know cholesterol is a starting point for all the hormones. I'm going to go looking for hormonal imbalances. So you see how the mind starts working? It starts working at what are the biochemical imbalances going on at the same time for this person. And then we start to add, or we adjunct treatments, and lo and behold, sometimes the cholesterol will come down where they don't need as high of a dosing. And this is just one example of many that focuses us to think. So integrative medicine is the combining of the allopathic and your functional medicine and even bioenergetic medicine, where people are healing with frequencies, music therapy, right? There's so many modes of healing, and we're trying to get that more scientifically defined. So we combine all those modalities, and we see what is the best outcome for that client. We're more open to other modes of healing, right? Other than just allopathic. Yeah.
You know, one thing that it always occurs to me is the number of terms like epigenetics, like, well, integrative, functional, anti-aging, longevity medicine, all the different terms but they really, as you're talking right now, it seems to me it all sums up to one umbrella term of functional medicine, which is really combining all of those definitions, I guess, and putting them.
You're so astute to say that. Absolutely, Michele. You're phenomenal at saying that, because people, absolutely, even aesthetics, let's go through an example of aesthetics, right? We know fat cells store toxins, right? We know that. That's how the body protects itself. That's one of the ways you protect yourself. So imagine if you have treatments like, that go and kill all the fat cells, let's say to destroy your fat so that you can get rid of it. Well, fat is not going to evaporate, right? So let's say you use the machines to kill the fat cells. How are the fat cells going to escape your body? Through the lymphatics. That's the only way, right? The fat cells will be killed, and then all the contents, right? All the contents go out, and then they have to be cleared through the lymphatics. Well, if you're already a person who has a high toxin exposure, you're going to, when you kill the fat cells, you actually are going to release toxins. And if your lymphatics are not working, or if you have other autoimmune conditions or things, you might actually cause more inflammation. And that needs to be attended. That doesn't mean you don't use the machines, but it means you need to have a protocol to try to address how do you attend to this, increased elimination of these toxins. How do you, they may go and redistribute. So you may start getting lumps somewhere else, So I guess what I'm trying to say is that people really need to look, like you said, bring this functional medicine approach into every aspect of your treatment. Absolutely. Every aspect.
So talk for a minute, if you would, about the microbiome, because we've had several guests on our podcast who have addressed the issues that it seems to be more recently that people are becoming aware that 80% of your immune system is in your microbiome, but your microbiome is often the least addressed from a medical standpoint, not by you, but by most allopathic doctors. So how do you treat microbiome disorders, and how do you diagnose them?
And then yeah. I think with the microbe, it's getting really confusing. That term is getting so confusing because there is a gut-brain connection. We know that 60% of our immune system is located in the GALT, which is a gut-associated lymphoid tissue, which is in the gut. And absolutely a dysbiosis or having the wrong bacteria. But the problem is that the treatments that we're using, for example, are creating more dysbiosis, because a lot of the bacteria that we're using, as let's say we take a probiotic, we don't know if that probiotic that we're getting, that bacteria has been GMO'd or not. So now what we do is we take, let's say, billions of strains of a bacteria, and what is that really doing? And what is the origin? What is the was that a GMO thing? And as we, for example, age, women, when they get menopausal, there's other strains of bacteria that they start lacking. So it's become, how do I say it? It's become a mishmash. And absolutely there's a gut-brain connection, but it needs to be done right. And a lot of people just are, again, generalizing, just take a probiotic. Okay, what probiotic? What strains should you take? What is the amount you should take? And then let's say if you've got coexisting like candida and all, maybe we need to look at your immune system. Do you just go treating the candida with antifungals now? Or do you actually go and a lot of people do, a lot of integrative doctors are doing that. But that leads to, when you treat oral antifungals, that can lead to liver, again, if you liver issues, many other issues. So what I say is, why is this candida appearing in the first place? Maybe you've got, the only reason is if your immune system is down. So my recent, over the years, as I've sophisticatedly as an aging physician, as I'm becoming, I'm really relying on really realizing that it's immune system dysfunction is causing the candida, sometimes overgrowth, is leading to increased risk of cancer, is causing, a lot of the environmental sensitivities, allergies, skin rashes. So my favorite system right now, too, of the aging process is immune dysfunction and the mitochondrial dysfunction. And I think that's going to overtake immune aging. And this is a term which, mark my words, in the next 10 years, you're going to hear about the immunosystem, immunoaging. I think it's going to overtake even the microbiome and a lot of other things.
Well, so just to be clear for our viewers, mitochondria, go ahead and just define that, because I mean, you and I can talk about it. We know the cells are the key to our aging, but could you just go through just a quick summary of the mitochondria and the ATP and the energy of the cells and that type of?
Yeah, so mitochondria they're the powerhouse of the cell. When you have an athlete and they're competing in sports and they measure the VO2 max, right? They have the ability to oxygenate, which defines how good of an athlete you're going to be. The number of mitochondria per square inch of muscle, let's say, has to be functioning at let's say near 100% efficiency. Okay. So let's just say let's say you got this piece of muscle, and let's say you only got 50 mitochondria, and this person has 100 mitochondria in that same amount of muscle. And if that 50 mitochondria is going at 100% efficiency, but that 100 mitochondria is only going at 10% or 15% efficiency, this person is going to be better conditioned. So the mitochondria, each of those mitochondria has to function. And there are a lot of things which we can get more advanced that we're getting into, is how do you make new mitochondria? And that's really causing reversal of the aging process.
And how do you make new mitochondria?
So there is a lot of things that you can do. There's a lot of research of how there's, I don't want to get too biochemical, but the SIRT1 things, coenzyme Q10, there is a lot of literature with, green teas, a lot of certain nutrients that we're getting into that can enhance mitochondrial biogenesis. We know that cyclic altitude variable conditioning can enhance mitochondrial biogenesis. We know that there is really exciting research that's being done that certain growth factors can enhance mitochondrial biogenesis. So there's a lot of things that I could talk about hours and hours on how to make new mitochondria. But yes, we do have certain nutrients, certain treatment modalities, certain cutting edge scientific things that can actually help make new mitochondria. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, if you could address the ATP part of the mitochondria, the energy production part, which obviously is connected to the mitochondria itself. It's like the host computer of your body, right? Of the cells. But so how do you define ATP then?
ATP is it's produced by the mitochondria, and it directly affects your body's ability to produce oxygen.
Right.
So it's very important. It's also very important, and there's a relationship between ATP and AKMP, and that has to do with your fat metabolism also, and insulin sensitivity through the PPAR system. So all of these things are interconnected. So if you had mitochondrial dysfunction, you probably could also down the road develop, insulin or diabetes risk and things like that. So yeah, it's and a lot of our fat. Remember how we have now people saying, "But I don't eat that much, and how come I'm not being able to lose weight?" So that can also have your body's ability that the mitochondria is impaired, right? In being able to fully, be efficient.
Well, I'm glad that you just said the buzzwords of lose weight. I don't think there is a subject that is more touted in the media than losing weight. So let's talk for a moment about your protocol for your clients. And obviously I realize everybody's biochemistry is different, and every person walking in your door is going to have reasons that could be hormonal, could be their diet, but if you could try to give us kind of an umbrella point of view, like say 30,000 foot elevator point of view of, I mean, just so people have some idea, because many people feel out of control, that they think diets are the answer, and then they fail and they go on, they lose weight, they regain it, all the things that we all know. So do you have a little secret sauce that can help people?
Yes, I think the number one thing is, obviously we always talk about right calories in, calories out, but right in importance, right underneath that becomes as toxins. I think fat cells hold on to toxins, and I think our foods, why is it that when people sometimes go and say, all the time, people tell me, I went to Europe and I lost like 14 pounds. Yes, yeah, I know you walked, and a lot of people sometimes wouldn't even walk. They said, we just ate so much, we drank wine and we took more food and everything, and we still lost weight. And I just feel that I really think the secret sauce is that we really need to start paying attention, because again, fat cells protect you against toxins. That's how they hold on to toxins. I literally have studied and take, like, people undergoing liposuction, and where the fat, right, a lot of fat is taken out. Try to study that fat, take that fat and go test it, have it tested at certain labs in the globally that are really good labs to test for toxins and fat.
And what do you find out?
You'll, at the edge of your seat, there's so many toxins, toxins people are holding on to. So I think definitely the toxin exposure, it's a whole society. It's getting into political issues. It gets into so many issues because I think the foods that we eat definitely are making us sick, definitely. And so I think there's that thing going on. Of course, there's a calories in, calories out. We're getting more computer bound. I get that. I think hormonal imbalances are occurring because we're eating meat. I was very interesting when I was the Olay ambassador and the launch was in Dubai. Guess what? I got asked by the beauty editors that interviewed and were there, appeared at the interviews. They said, Dr. Naina, why is there so much in the Mideast, women getting PCOS and diabetes? And, part of that answer is that, are you really measuring? And do we have really the tools to measure as we're ingesting all of these, hormone infested chickens and meat, a lot of the meat, and even it's now getting into even just foods, right? But when we ingest, there's a lot of hormones that we ingest. And as we ingest those hormones, they're excreted out into the urine. Now just think about it. As we excrete them out of the urine, what is the outflow? The urine is then taken in by the whole filtration system, right? Of the water and everything, and filtrated. Is anyone really measuring at parts per billion the hormone amount of people urinating? Maybe that's contributing. These are things to start thinking about, start studying about, but no one ever talks about it. It's always another drug, another quick fix, right? Another diet, another this. I mean, think about the keto diet. Why would Atkins try this many years ago, the Atkins diet? He died of a heart attack.
Right.
So there's a biochemistry fact about meat. Anytime you exceed 3 ounces of meat, you have 60 milligrams of arachidonic acid. Now, you can try to hide that fact, but it's a biochemistry fact. You can test over and over again for that. Okay. So if we don't do something to decrease that arachidonic acid or neutralize it, then the amount of meat that you're going to be eating is going to be so inflammatory. So telling people to do the keto diet when you're not paying attention to how much inflammation they may already have, maybe actually worsening them, right? Same thing with this diet. So you really have to, the secret sauce is start paying attention to your toxin exposure. Really, I would start there. And obviously your calories in, calories out, right? And I think you're going to find that this apple, I was asked to do a talk. I was so nervous when I was a resident. My same mentor, Dr. Krizek, he said, you irradiate an apple. Is an apple still an apple? If you irradiate that, it looks like an apple. It feels like an apple, tastes like an apple. Is it still an apple? And I actually, that time, I stood in front of the leading, oh my gosh, the liver transplant doctor was there. Amazing experience I had. But I actually made the case that no, it's not. Once you change that molecular structure, right? So we have to start questioning these things. We really do.
Is there a test that you can take, a simple test that measures your toxic load?
I wish there was, right? There isn't.
Is that in the works? Is there anyone
I've been looking and searching out. There is, for the fat cells, you can get your
doing on that?
there's but there are different things like for estrogen, because okay, so let's then, the better question would be, okay, what are the most common toxins found, right? So the most
Right.
common, what we're finding out are the bad estrogens. We're
Right.
finding out that we really have bad estrogens that we build up. That's why
Right.
there's such a whole thing about, right, as a paraben free and phthalates. Okay, so estrogen is really becoming an issue. And I think that's what's causing, because as you get increased estrogen in men, and we can't even check, 99% of the doctors in the world are not even checking for all
Right.
the estrogens that a
Right.
person has. Checking estradiol is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
You have estrones, you have
Mhm.
16 hydroxyestrones,
Mhm.
16 alpha hydroxyestrones, then you have 16 methoxyestrones, I mean, and on, right? I can talk 8 hours on estrogen. And
Right.
the point I'm trying to make is that you may have a high estrogen load in men even, and it increases their binding globulins, which is going to even bind up the testosterone. So is it no wonder? These are statistics. Again, facts that cannot be disputed.
Mhm.
Is it no wonder why men in their 30s are having the least testosterone levels than men than years ago?
Mhm.
Men in the, like 50, 70 years ago,
Mhm.
they have much less hormones, and testosterone is an amazing hormone even for women. We
Right.
only have 3 anabolic hormones. One is growth hormone, which is decreasing in people. Testosterone, which is decreasing in people. And then thyroid. We have so many thyroid dysfunctions that are starting to happen. And these are only 3 anabolic. And if you can, and the number one biomarker of aging is loss of muscle mass, sarcopenia. So if
Mhm.
you cannot build muscle mass, and now we're even scaring people to do testosterone replacement. Yes, the way we're currently doing testosterone replacement is dangerous because it can lead to more estrogen buildup, which can, when it goes through the liver, can activate your clotting factors, increase your risk of stroke and heart disease. But don't blame the testosterone. Blame the way we're administering our treatments, right?
What is the best way to administer testosterone in order to prevent that from happening?
It's a very proprietary way that I have, and that we're actually working on a patent, but small dosing on an everyday basis, right?
Mhm.
Without using creams, because creams can also aromatize. So, but having said that, there are definitely safer ways of doing it, which people aren't even looking at, and I'm surprised we're not even looking at. So, is it a conspiracy theory to say our research is going more towards making us sick and getting us on another medication, or or is research really being targeted to look at your toxin exposure, to actually have a disease entity called environmental toxin exposure? There's no such terms, right? So it makes me wonder, really, how are we? It leads us to more philosophical issues. Where are we as a species headed for? Are we going extinct? And my answer is yes. As we know it, the human species is going extinct. And I think we're the most endangered species right now.
But there are people like you who are fighting that force, that
That has been the
that
challenge.
axis of evil, let's call it for a moment. I don't want to go political, but I want to stay on the informational. But the fact is that, well, just another area that you haven't talked about, but I know is big, is cortisol and the influence of stress on our bodies too. Which cortisol, people who have gained weight know, if they've gone to a person like you, that stress can make you fat. One, because it increases your cortisol and your adrenals are being taxed. So why don't you spend a couple minutes just giving us a little info on that subject?
100%. And you're so astute to bring me back onto that subject, because that is another thing that I look at for weight gain. And guess what estrogen dominance does? When you have estrogen dominance, these women are getting endometriosis, fibrocystic breast disease, uterine fibroids. Men are getting, we will find out in 10 years, they're getting increased risk of prostate cancer even. There's a role of estrogen in that. But let's just stay on the subject. Estrogen dominance will elevate cortisol. Anytime you elevate cortisol, you desensitize your insulin receptors. There's a huge connection. between that. And also when you elevate cortisol, you also not only deregulate or desensitize the insulin receptors, the PPAR system gets slowed down. So mitochondrial dysfunction occurs. You also activate collagenase, which breaks down your collagen. So skin aging occurs. And there's so many things that start happening. And absolutely the weight gain occurs, because as you desensitize the insulin receptors, let's say you have somebody whose insulin, everything is doing great, like a perfect, let's say, 19-year-old or 20-year-old, and everything is working perfect. She's going to take like one piece of toast with, let's say, almond butter or peanut butter and do fine with it. You put that on a person who's already got this cholesterol, all this issue, they're going to gain 5 pounds like that. And they wonder what's going on. And that's because we have this, this cortisol insulin connection going on that has led you to have a desensitization. And Pritkin, he actually studied, in diabetics, we say, don't take rice, don't do fruits, because you're going to increase, right? So that's absolutely correct for diabetics who are doing the typical American diet. But we sensitized these diabetics. What we did was we took these people for almost like 10 weeks or 12 weeks without just being very careful, having the great amount of just a typical good amounts of good carbs, fruits, and vegetables, and protein, the good kind of protein, non-toxic, all that. Guess what? They were able to sensitize their insulin receptors so that when they did take the fruit and when they did take the rice and all of that, it didn't give them a high glycemic load. It didn't quickly elevate their blood sugars. Isn't that interesting? So that means that it is a very powerful statement to say that we can sensitize our insulin receptors back. And diabetes, did you know, this is a fact, again, American Medical Journal, the AMA even published this, 85% of diabetes type 2 is diet and lifestyle related.
Right. I know. And people
now people, the problem which I'm having is that some people really are trying hard, but because of financial constraints or whatever constraints, the food, again, it goes back, is an apple when it's been radiated. They say, I take broccoli, I take this, I take vegetables, I take this. But we still don't know the quality of the food, unfortunately. And this is a huge political, social, economic issue. We're GMOing our foods. So is it not common sense to think that if we GMO the foods, our macrobiome that you talk about is going to be genetically modified, and then that's going to lead to different thought processes because there's a gut-brain connection. And that's going to lead to all sorts of a whole host of new diseases. 100%.
So GMO is verboten. We know that. And then
we're as a species, we are going. We're
going in the wrong direction. Well, we're going
in the wrong direction, verge of extinction.
Yeah.
I wish people start paying attention to how the human species is going extinct. Yeah,
well, if you look at the options that you have, particularly today with the inflationary issues, and people are choosing foods that are the least expensive that they can feed their kids, and yet those are the ones that are.
Yeah, well, what are they to do? Perhaps, and again, I'm really questioning. I'm not being a conspiracist, but why would we not have more emphasis in our school systems? I mean, they talk about it, but they don't really practice what they preach. About these non-GMO. They're still allowing, you can say, oh, go take an apple today. But nobody's really understood that the apple has been already genetically modified, that all the pesticide companies are putting pesticides. We're having the people in India are just got hold of all these GMO seeds that they lost their crops on. And so many of the farmers committed suicide. Anyone talking about these things? No. It's almost like we as humans are able to carry that guilt that we are eating like crap when what is being pushed on us to only afford for the average population is crap.
Well, so if anyone is listening that has and watching that has any land or even a windowsill they can start to grow some of their own. It's so easy, if you just buy the seeds. I bought my seeds, just, went on Amazon, got the organic lettuces and all the different, and, I don't have the time to really spend, but I did ask one of my helpers to just, plant the garden for me, and we have the irrigation. So now, here we are in the, end of summer, and we've got all this lettuce. Is more than I could possibly, and so I give it away, and all the herbs that it would grow. So that's right. So that's one option. The other option is to, patronize your farmers markets if you're in an area geographically where they exist. At least those you're getting farm to table. And you're not having food that has been sitting in a warehouse and losing its nutrient value. And plus, you don't know how they've treated it, how they've grown it, and how they've been, sprayed it to keep it more lush.
I guess, and then this opens up to even a more political question is, where are we going with all of this synthetic breast milk that wants to be produced? Where are we going with the lab produced salmon? That's going to lead us to huge alterations in our genome, and so this opens up all to CRISPR technology. It opens us up into, genetic modifications. It opens up into all of these issues, Michele, and it's more than sometimes I can think about.
And what is if you can explain from what is CRISPR technology?
CRISPR technology is that where you actually, is a great concept for treating disease. And so if, for example, if we have 2 strands of DNA, right, that gives an outcome, a gene expression outcome. And so if, let's say you have 2 strands of DNA, and if you, through CRISPR technology, can change this strand, okay? Let's say you change it. You have the technology to change this so that, let's say the person, then as a cell, every time that cell divides, it'll always be that changed version and your original version. And that's great if you are trying to prevent a disease or you're trying to treat a disease. But CRISPR technology can also be used to enter into any kind of, that technology is very powerful. So if you want to change, a person's, how they're going to look, or what habits, what's epigenetics, you can use that to change certain epigenetics. And if you, sometimes it's going to open up into, a lot of, we carry genes, right? We carry genes that are not only disease, but we carry genes for behavioral traits, for, thought processes, for a lot of things. It opens up the ability that can we then change modify the genome of the humans as we know it. So I think it leads us to transhumanism. I do. I think it leads us to the term transhumanism.
You've touched on so many important subjects, but sometimes people get confused when they hear all of this because they don't know what should I do? How do I take the important steps of improving my life? The name, our podcast is Ageless and Timeless. It's not an accident that we're calling it that. We're looking for answers that are easy to follow, or easy to understand, easy to follow, and then easy to live your life as if you didn't have to work hard at this. It's just natural. It's just common sense. So if you were going to simplify, and I know this is a really big question and not easily answered, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If you were to simplify everything that you've talked about today and put it into a protocol, like, this is what I would suggest, and without being addressing the specifics of everyone's individual needs, but just some of the things that you think are the most important.
A good wellness and anti-aging regimen. Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
You got it.
Absolutely. I would start with number 1, vitamin D. Vitamin D levels should be, in our recommendations are, this is just, general speaking. I'm not treating anyone or anything, but just generally, if I go and lecture about it, I think optimum vitamin D levels are between 60 to 70. Keeping them there will definitely boost our interferon levels, help us to fight our viruses and so forth. I think vitamin D and it's actually more like a hormone, believe it or not. Right. And so I think vitamin D levels is vitamin D, maintaining that is step number 1. Step number 2, I think, is look for maintaining our muscle mass. So we must take bioavailable, right amount of bioavailable protein. Now, I've studied the bioavailability of proteins. Believe it or not, a good egg whites are very bioavailable. So egg whites are fabulous. If you're a vegetarian, I would urge you to at least do the lentils. Those black pea lentils are phenomenal in the amount of protein. They're called black pea lentils.
Yeah, black-eyed peas. Is that
no black lentils?
Black pea lentils. Okay,
they're black lentils.
Yeah, they have them in Whole Foods.
Yes, black lentils, not the orange lentil, black lentils.
Yeah. Okay.
Take plenty of black lentils. Okay.
Yeah. Is that the ones that they serve in Mexican restaurants? They serve you black beans. That's not the same thing.
Black beans are also very good, by the way. Black beans are very high in protein. So do things that are high in protein. Tuna fish, take it with cilantro because of the mercury. The cilantro will leach the mercury out. So grow herbs, mint, cilantro. These were traded like gold back in the day.
Right.
These are coming back into fashion again.
Right.
Cilantro like no other. Cilantro would be amazing to take on every day. And learn to like this. Basil. Basil is a natural adaptogen. Oh my gosh, 7 to 8 leaves of basil a day. You have get your plants going on that. In everything, right? Turmeric every day consumption with a little bit of pinch of a black pepper to make it bioavailable.
Right. Biopairing.
Yes, turmeric is amazing anti-inflammatory, cancer prevention, all of these things. Okay, so these are introduce. A lot of people forget to take spices and herbs. Think about it. How many times would you actually say, "Oh, I took salad," and I review diets all the time. I took salad, I took broccoli. I said, "Did you take cilantro? Did you take basil? Did you take rosemary? Did you take turmeric,
oregano,
basil, oregano,
thyme?" I know. That's what I grow. That's what I grow in my garden. I have them all.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do the herbs.
Sage
vitamin D. Yes. So do your vitamin D. Do your herbs. Okay. Make sure also, because we are seeing so much of diabetes and everything, I add fenugreek. Fenugreek is another amazing herb. And it's fabulous seed, fenugreek seeds, to your cooking.
And what about fennel? And fennel too.
Absolutely.
Fennel is another one. But when you say vitamin D, I think it's important to explain to people to always look for D25, cholecalciferol.
D3, yes.
Or D3, right. But
D3.
when they do your test, it says D25.
Sometimes it's with sometimes it's better to be combined with K2, K1.
Yeah, I always combine K2.
Yeah, but if you can't afford, just get D3, a good D3, and just have the doctor check your levels. Make sure and if the doctor says they're normal, you tell yourself what is the actual level, and the level should be, and make sure they're optimum.
So and then mention sunshine too, because that's
yes, absolutely. So I think those. So I think start with the herbs.
The best form of vitamin D, right?
Huh? What did you say?
I said going out in the sun for a half hour without sunscreen for just to get the vitamin D absorption.
10 minutes, yes. He talks about his book. Yeah, he wrote a fabulous book, that's been written about that as well. But I think so. I think starting with that is a great plus. Then I think the next thing is really starting to avoid the hormones, trying to clear off. So cruciferous vegetables help clear the estrogens. Things like cauliflower, broccoli, broccolini, chestnuts. I even take nutrients that have indole-3 carbinol. That's been studied by the National Institute of Health as a prevention even of breast cancer. And so I definitely believe in doing that on a daily basis.
Right.
And then looking at try to, I think just starting with just doing a few of these simple things like this. And then if you're feeling like you're under more stress for a woman, eating yams. Believe it or not, there's so many phytoestrogen hormones, right? In yams. Don't forget yams, and thank God they're not genetically modified yet. So
and yams and sweet potatoes are they kissing cousins?
They're kissing cousins. Yeah, they are. But yams really have the really good, the really good phytohormones.
Yeah, we're coming into that time of year where yams are very available for Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah.
They were one of the bounty that the pilgrims gathered when they arrived here in the United States. So
think about it. Isn't it interesting how all of this has history to it?
oh
How
yeah.
spices and all this yams and all this.
Well, I think the Industrial Revolution changed this country so dramatically, went from agricultural to industrial, and when everything had to happen quickly and at the least cost, and they started injecting the chickens and the cows with the hormones, and then not even letting the chickens out of the cage because they wanted them to get slaughtered faster. All those things are industrialized. We kind of defeated our origins as a country of farmers. And that's why I have so much respect for anyone who's chosen farming as their profession, because they're doing such a service for all of us, particularly if they do organic, if they take those steps to clean up the whatever they're fertilizing with and watering with, and all of that. But well, let's not end. I don't want us to end without us talking about aesthetics.
Aesthetics.
So I know that's a huge subject. We could have you back for another hour just on that. But you are so good at this, and of course I, can firsthand testify for that experience that I had with you. But why don't you just give us a kind of I know it's hard to do, but give us a quick overview of what you would do for someone coming in who said, I want to look 10 years younger. What can you do for me?
Yeah, I think the very first thing what I would do is really look at when we know that hyaluronic acid can help build collagen. So I right away, what I normally do is I look at it's just from aesthetic. Okay, I'm not going to really spend. We've already talked so much about the inside. Let's just talk strictly outside. Outside, I really think there's so many women that have volume loss. So I'm very particular and very encourage, certain dermal fillers that are hyaluronic acid derived, right? So dermal fillers that are hyaluronic dermal fillers. And used very small amounts. I almost use it as like a mesotherapy type treatment. And you've experienced that. And so just to help build up the collagen. As a woman is a little bit older, I'll obviously put in more of the filler. But I think proper use of filler is a very first thing to do. Secondly, I think if we can do a certain laser treatments that are not going to be so and especially in older women that are not going to be so heat intensive to lose the volume, meaning to lose the fat. So I really like that would help the superficial collagen build up. So I usually combine that, but I have a unique way of perhaps extending that treatment to help build up the superficial collagen. So we do that. I also recommend. These are my favorite treatments. I love mixing like a multipolar radio frequency device with exosomes. Now these are the new things, but they have to be the proper kind of exosome treatments. I love red light therapy. I think that's phenomenal. We've used that in our treatments. I love things like microneedling, but I don't want it too frequent because I've actually seen damage done. So I limited amount of microneedling is very, very beneficial as well. And PRP.
And what about PRP?
Just get a PRP. I love PRP. We are also doing something very, very novel, and that is that even though, because again, I talked to this term, please remember this term, because maybe 10 years when we do a podcast, we're going to be, you'll say, Dr. Naina, you were right, save this podcast. Immunoaging. When we give even somebody else's stem cells, nobody is looking at the immunoaging that might be accelerating. So even though pain, all this phenomenal things occur, we really don't know what effect it's having on immunoaging. And so what we're doing is, I strongly have now saying, hey, bank your own stem cells. So it's a very, very, I just did it last week, the procedure, and my client called me. He walked that very same day, 2 miles, even though I told him not to, but he did. He says, I was up, he said, we only get this much of a sample. That's it. I have a technique worked out. And you just get your own sample. It's sent to a stem cell bank. And they then expand it, and it's there. And so you know exactly the amount of stem cells that you're going to get should you need them. And for rejuvenation, we can also give it for rejuvenation. And so banking your own stem cells, and we recommend that. We also recommend things that extend our telomeres, like IV infusions with NAD, glutathione. I think these are amazing. We have to be careful with vitamin C high dosing, because some people have never even had, most places you go to don't even check G6PD for deficiencies and so forth like that. So that requires more finesse. But NAD, glutathione done properly, we recommend that for age reversal. We recommend the growth factor therapy on the face. You know that you've experienced it for age reversal. So these are my favorite modalities.
And what about peptides?
Peptide therapy, huge for as well. And picking the right peptide for that person. So peptide therapy as well. Yes, I absolutely, Michele.
If anyone is afraid of self-injecting that, the peptide.
There's sublingual, there's sometimes nasal sprays we're trying to develop. I've worked with pharmacies to help with that. Yes. And sometimes inhalation. We're even looking at inhalation of an NAD and so forth. A lot of the athletes are doing it. Yeah.
Who's doing it?
Athletes.
Oh, the athletes. Okay. Good. Well, we're unfortunately out of time.
It goes by fast, doesn't it? It really does.
It goes by so fast. So, but I know that you've offered to give a gift to our viewers, and I wanted to just spend a moment, because it's so generous of you. And you, Dr. Naina, has developed her own line of aesthetics of serums and peptides, and it's just amazing what she can do, that she's personally been involved in. I didn't even talk about the time with Procter and Gamble and your Olay, but if anyone wants to read about the Regenerist product, she was the one behind the Regenerist, the Procter & Gamble product that is still on the market today, Olay, even all these years later. But anyway, so let's not segue from that, but from the subject that could you just for a moment tell us what you're offering, and the serum itself that you're offering to our viewers?
So the serum, I have a patent to make a claim for age reversal complex. So it has that. It has growth factors that you need. It has peptides, oligopeptide 2, that is actually been proven to increase collagen. And then it also has skin proteins. Like you take a protein shake, but nobody ever thinks of actually topically applying the same proteins. And so I combined it all, and I combined it with a low molecular weight hyaluronic acid, which will go through the skin. And that's it. It's a nice formula. It's been really beneficial for help texturizing improvement and acne, rosacea, any autoimmune conditions of the skin. It's been very beneficial.
So it can go on the rest of the body, not just on the face, right?
Yes, people put on the décolletage area. Yeah. They're using it in areas where they're telling me they're in their in the genital area even. Yeah, they've been using. Yeah.
So if someone wants to order that from you, I know you've offered a 50% off of retail, which is retail is 130. So 65.
Just email us. Yeah, we can info.
Well, and they won't need to use the code NAINAMD.
Yes.
Or just say they saw you on Ageless and Timeless with Michele Hughes, and I'm sure that will get them there. But the website, and then is it okay if they call your office?
Absolutely.
Okay. Absolutely. What's your telephone contact at the office?
Yes, it's 310-777-7588.
Okay, 777-7588. And
I'm sorry, the 7511. That was my
7511. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. And if you are in Beverly Hills, Dr. Naina has a beautiful office right in the center of Beverly Hills with 2 hours of free parking right across the street. It's wonderful. So it's very easy to go and visit her in person. So, all right. Well, I want to say thank you. I have
thank you, Michele. You're an amazing person. I'm so happy to have met you. You're just amazing.
You're gonna.
You have amazing knowledge.
Have a lot of wonderful. Well, you
we're
are
each other in Vegas.
The feeling is mutual, and
we're going to see.
Yeah, that's right. American Academy of Anti-Aging. I've been so honored to be invited by Dr. Goldman, who's the founder and chairman, and was a guest on my podcast. I think I told you that.
Yes.
Dr. Naina, that he was a guest here. He said he hardly ever does podcasts. So I was very, very honored that he did that. So Dr. Robert Goldman, yeah, if you want to look back on my YouTube, you see his podcast. So, all right, well, I just want to say a fond farewell, and I'll see you in a couple of months in December. In the meantime, I hope that today, what we try to accomplish, which is to give people all the help and encouragement and information. Of course, information is power. And even imagination, which I always like to refer back to Albert Einstein's quote about imagination is more powerful than knowledge. Not to say that knowledge isn't powerful, it's just that, imagination is boundless. So just try, there's a little trick, try to imagine yourself as as my friend Ben Hardy says, the person that you want to be in the future, your future self. Imagine that, and then start to manifest that person. And this is what, scientifically can be done today. It's amazing. It's both the like you said, the body brain connection. And so, if you think about this, just never give up. Always imagine that you can be what you set your intentions to be, and you will be ageless and timeless. So thank you again, Dr. Naina, and thank you all for listening today. This is Michele Hughes signing off for Ageless and Timeless.
Thank you. Thank you, Michele.
You're ageless, timeless.